How much does it cost to have a wedding in Nigeria? If you can only afford 95% of your wedding, you should not be having your wedding. If you cannot afford the wedding, it's okay to not have it. You cannot be the bride and coordinate your wedding. You, that is just the bride for the first time, what do you know? Nothing. Knockout punch that literally knocked people out. We had lots of alcohol. Like nothing was going to mess up my vibes that day, and nothing did. My advice, I don't need to tell you what to do. You know what is best for you and your partner. But if you were to ask me for the best advice, I would say, get married before doing the wedding. The cost of my wedding was So you are trying to plan your wedding. In this video, I am going to be sharing with you the tips and tricks that you need to take to make sure you have a successful wedding celebration. So I will be sharing my opinion, and I will also be giving advice that I wish someone would give to me, or advice that I really took to heart and really worked out for me. Weddings are very, very special, honestly. Do not let anyone convince you why you should or you shouldn't have your wedding. It is totally up to you. You do the decision that's best for you and your partner. In this video, you will hear me say a lot of things that about you and your partner. Let me tell you something. The only people, and I repeat, the only people that their opinion matters during a wedding or wedding planning or marriage is literally the two of you. Nobody else. I will probably have some controversial opinions in this video, but it's like I said, it's my opinions, and I do have valid reasons as to why those are my opinions. Before we get into it, which we will get into really bulky details, and I will try to summarize as much as I can, I'm going to start from the planning phase, best practices, cost, finances, and also just things that make sense during a wedding and things that don't. Let's just get some things out of the way. If you are not paying for your wedding, if you cannot afford your wedding, you should not be having a wedding. I repeat, if you cannot afford your wedding, the wedding you're so stuck on planning, if you cannot pay for it by yourself, you and your partner, you should not be having that wedding. People have made weddings into some kind of financial drain and like financial stressor, because people are trying to, or brides I would say, are trying to meet up a standard that necessarily you cannot meet. Social media has played a huge part in how we view and how we want to have our weddings. We're thinking about the aesthetics, the vibes, everything, the kind of dress you're wearing, what you're doing. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Another wedding is going to happen the next weekend. Especially in Nigeria, weddings are happening like, just do what makes you happy. It's really not that big of a deal to people. So if you're trying to have your wedding to please so many people and have this whole thing, if you're not doing it for yourself, for your joy, for your celebration, like the celebration of your love and relationship, then you should not be having your wedding. If you can only afford 50% of your wedding, you should not be having the wedding. If you can only afford 95% of your wedding, you should not be having your wedding. There is a difference, don't get me wrong. There is a difference between support, gifting versus help. There are people, especially during your wedding, like your family, relatives, who want to support and show you love and gift you something during your wedding. Most of the time it could be financial, or just some obligation that they will take on during your wedding. Whether if it's, I know some people would say that there are traditional like rights, like it is the tradition, like based on tradition, it's supposed to be this person that's supposed to pay for the wedding, right? I get it. But even if with those traditions, if you cannot afford to have the wedding that you're making someone else feel obligated to pay for, you should not be having the wedding. And that is facts. If you cannot afford the wedding, it's okay to not have it. There are people who have money, like a lot of wealth, and they really do not care to have weddings. And there are people who just want to have a small, tiny celebration, and it's just as important to them. So literally, you do not have to break the bank. You don't have to destroy your life just because you're trying to have a wedding. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's get right into the meat of the whole planning process. So first things first, you need to have a plan, right? You need to decide if you are going to have a big wedding, a small wedding. You need to define what is a big wedding, what is a small wedding to you. Let me give you context. My sister and I, to me, I would consider we both had big weddings, but my sister had a mega wedding. Meaning she had over 1,500 people, 1,500 guests and more at her wedding. See, me, I had about 300. And to me, I still felt like I had a big wedding because the number 300 is still considered a big wedding to so many people. But to Nigerians, that's probably a small wedding because 1,500 is the typical norm of guest size you would see at weddings. Once you've defined that, you need to decide your budget. What are you willing to spend for your wedding? I have a funny story about this. When I hired my planners, it was literally like, because I had no idea how much it costs to have a wedding. Maybe I was still living in like 2010, 2015 wedding budgets. And my planner made this statement. She was like, so what is your budget? And let's just say, and I was just, I was honest and I said, I honestly don't know like how much weddings are costing now. That is why I'm using a planner, because I genuinely want someone who knows what they're doing and has, like knowledge, like who can make it work and tell me the truth. And she was like, what's your budget? Throw a number. I said, 5 million naira. And my wedding planner was like, okay, it's very much possible to have a wedding with 5 million naira. But the wedding that you just explained to me, it is not going to be 5 million. 5 million is not going to make you have the wedding that you want. And I was like, okay, at least that is a starting baseline. Now I know that 5 million naira is not going to give me the wedding that I'm asking, like what I want to see, right? So so then we had to go back to the drawing board, talk to my partner and figure out how much things are actually going to cost. Because you could have imaginary costs in your head, how much you're planning to spend, but there would be actual costs, like how much it actually costs to hire a caterer to feed 300 people. If you want to have, like me, appetizer, main dish, dessert, cocktails, who die, who no die, you are going to be paying for that. So that is that. You need to figure out your budget, your plan, and what you really want to spend. If after talking to your planner and you figure out that you really cannot afford the wedding that you just explained to them, then that's where compromise comes in. So, but before I get into that, let me just get this out of the way. You cannot be the bride and coordinate your wedding. You can plan your wedding, but you can't be the bride and coordinate your wedding. So that's why I'm about to say, hire a planner. If you're gonna take my advice, hire a wedding planner. In fact, you don't have to hire a wedding planner. You can hire a wedding coordinator, but I'll tell you that most coordinators, you ask for their price, is really no much different from a wedding planner, because with a coordinator, they're doing a lot of risk management and risk assessment because you did not include them throughout the entire plan of your wedding. So they will probably be charging you more because they have to be prepared for things that are about to happen. So I will highly recommend just going with a planner, because when you have a planner, It's a whole package. You probably are getting more than one planner, at least in Nigeria, and with the planners that I worked with. I got more than one planner, like head planners. I got more than one head planner. I had, you could have up to a lot of coordinators on your wedding day. Like me, originally, I thought I would be having maybe 2 to 4 coordinators, but I'm telling you, my planners came through and I had about probably 8 coordinators, because there were just a lot of them that were making things happen. And you could have things like bridal assistant, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And you will have just other people on their team that is part of supporting and making your day happen. If you want to have a special day, stress-free wedding planning and wedding celebration, you need to have a wedding planner. I did not say you want to have, I said you need. It's a need. Just as if you want things to go solidly well and not have to worry about anything, you need a wedding planner. Let me just tell you the truth. If you are telling yourself that wedding planner, hiring a wedding planner is where I can cut costs by not having one, well, you just dumped yourself in a well, a shitty well. So if you know what's good for you, hire a wedding planner. A wedding planner will save you the cost, like truly save you cost. They will know what really makes sense to make your wedding happen, and they can really tell you what doesn't make sense and things that you can forego. Another thing that you don't know about having a wedding planner is that these planners have a plethora of wedding vendors in different price ranges, literally. So you can your planner, if you have a really good relationship with your planners, they can really go to hell and back for you. And that is really important, because other than you and your spouse, your partner, nobody else values, or your wedding is as important as your planner would. Literally, your planner is the person. Sometimes they take your wedding more seriously than you would, just because it's their job, it's their career, it's their reputation. They have built a brand for themselves. So literally, you can tell yourself, oh, I have this friend who can be my MC, but these people, like, they can negotiate. Let me tell you, planners are like, it depends. You have to get a really good planner, because there are planners that are really good negotiators. Because they have this network of vendors, they can give you solid quality of vendors for a really good price, because they have those at the palm of their fingers. You, that is just a bride for the first time, what do you know? Nothing. They've been doing this for a long time. They have done over probably 300 weddings in a year, and you're here, like, you really need to seek the advice and utilize the professionals that are there. I know I have just spoken a lot about vendors, but I do want to go to the next category of deciding what kind of vendors you use. So make sure that the vendors that are your non-negotiables, you are willing and ready to pay for that. I would like to categorize my non-negotiables, right? So I would categorize my non-negotiables in 3 different categories. The first category is anything that went into your mouth. Food, drinks were my non-negotiables. The second thing was anybody that was capturing my day. My media team, basically. So my photographer, videographer, you cannot negotiate. You cannot get cheap in those areas. I know that there are people who choose to get a photographer but not a videographer. My best advice is you get both. Literally, I am a very much, like, obviously I have a YouTube channel, my social media. I love to capture videos, and just because I love those motion memories to remember the action, like what was going on, right? My videos are so important to me, and I want to be able to watch back, not just look back. And so my media team, I needed to make sure my videographer, Mist, was amazing, really great person, really amazing to work with. So I needed to make sure that my videos were top notch. Photography, I mean, I don't need to explain to you that you need to get photographers that can, when they can capture moments. Like my photographers that I use. So on Thursday, I worked with Jerry Clinton, really great person. Like, he is good. He knows what he's doing. They know. I think the people that I hired, I wanted to make sure that my vendors, at least the ones that were going to be working together, had a good relationships, at least the ones that I picked out. And I would definitely say the same for my planners. They did pick people that really worked together and really did deliver a great job. The third is anything that had to do with creating an experience, like creating a show. So now we're talking the MC, like the MC had to be hyped up. Like, I cannot be the person hyping myself. Like, I would, but I needed somebody else too. So my MC was in the list of people creating those moments. The DJ, oh God, ZJ, you cannot mess with that. The after party performances, those were really, really important. Another thing that I forgot to mention during the people capturing the experience, the ambience of my day, I really forgot to mention decoration. So my decorator was part of, I do clump them in the category of people that create the moment for me. So and especially with the decorator, it's not just a decorator, but the decorator with the lights and effects people, because decoration and lights and effects, they go like this. And you need to make sure that they create the moment that you want, so that when the photographer, the videographer are capturing the videos, you want to make sure that the ambiance of everything you've created for yourself is very, very special. Another thing that I want to say is how you look on that day. One thing when you create a wedding budget, especially for the wedding day itself, is that things need to move around at some point. Because weddings are expensive. If nobody tells you, weddings are expensive, and things will start to move around throughout your budgeting, like the budget and expense period, like when you're planning for it. So I did not want to put how I was going to look as part of my day in that budget. There are people who do, and as a bride, a non-negotiable for me was I was not going to compromise how I look and felt on my day. So, like making the decision on the kind of wedding dress I was going to wear, I realized that it was really, really hard for me. I could not find a wedding dress that I loved in a store. And I always knew that I was going to design my dress, which that would be another video that I would be doing as to how I designed, how I came up with the idea, picked my designer, and my dresses came into fruition, how I wanted it to look like. During your wedding planning process, or even the wedding day, honestly, you cannot let things get to you. Like, yes, you're spending money, and where you're spending money, you need to make sure that there is accountability, which is why I would always say hire a wedding planner. To summarize everything, do what makes you happy. Cut your coat according to your size, meaning only spend money that you have, budget well, and budget intentionally, and stick to that budget. How much does it cost to have a wedding in Nigeria with 300 guests? And my answer is, it depends. Like I said, I had different priorities. I had things that were important to me and things that were not important to me. If you want to have a nice, very nice wedding, good vendors, quality weddings, I would tell you to start planning from 10 million naira. That 10 million is tentative to inflation. Also, another thing is when you have the wedding. I had my wedding in November in Nigeria, literally wedding season. There may be cost difference if I had the same wedding and I have it maybe in like June, right? Like the costs are different. Wedding season in Nigeria are the Ember months, and wedding seasons are crazy. Ember months and January, I would say. Like wedding season is very, very crazy. So, and things are expensive, vendors are booked, so prices are a bit hiked during that time. But at the same time, if you have a planner, I feel like there will be no much difference if you get what I mean. I would say if you're planning a wedding in Nigeria, you're looking upwards of 300 people. I think you should start thinking like, oh, okay, my wedding is gonna cost me 10 million naira and above. There are people who literally will spend twice that much in the same guest count. So don't get it twisted. Don't say, oh, I'm gonna have a guest size of 150 and it's gonna cost my expense in half. No, it won't. There are literally some costs that would stay the same. I feel like I have said a lot. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Before you go to the comments and say, oh my God, weddings are so expensive, I am not going to have a wedding. Yeah, keep that opinion to yourself. I wanted to share my culture. And it was an opportunity to have my husband's family, some of my friends down in Nigeria to celebrate with me. And I absolutely feel like a great way to show your culture to people who have never experienced it before is through weddings. Weddings kind of assimilate a whole lot of things into one day. You have the bride price, you have the whole traditional wedding, you have the wedding ceremonies that should be the everything, the way we Nigerians like to do it. Your opinion is what matters because it's your wedding, it's your marriage, it's your home, it's your life. And the reason I gave you all this advice is to create a very stressless situation. We don't like stress. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Share this video to somebody who may be getting married or having their wedding coming up. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.